I think it was back in the 6th grade or somewhere around there when my teachers put together an activity for us to understand the feudal period and what life might have been like under the feudal monarchical system. Each one of us in my class were randomly assigned to different roles: king and queen, prince and princess, noble lords, and the vast majority of us were serfs. I was a serf, the lowest of the low. And how it played out was that during certain points of the school day, for 1 week only, we had to take on these roles. Nothing too harsh, but if you were a serf, you may have had to have carried the books of a noble, or cleaned their desk, or some other silly, mundane task. Plus, you weren't allowed to speak to a noble unless spoken to. If you were royalty, things were done for you. One thing I do recall was that as a serf or even a lesser noble, when the king or queen passed by, you were to bow to them. Looking back, I think perhaps the point of the exercise was to show how our American democratic system and our ability to choose who we follow as our leaders is the better model. The whole idea of the monarchy in the feudal times, where people were trapped into their statuses and were required to bow down to another, was pointed out as being unadmirable. Nowadays, for instance, such as with the people of England, the monarchy is not seen as a relic of the distant past or a quaint institution from former times. Rather, the queen and now the king are supposed to represent the ideal of whom the British seek to be as people. The royal family, arguably to various degrees of success, is supposed to embody the wisdom and strength, the compassion and faith that their subjects seek to live. It is from this context we realize why subjects still bow to their royals. We don't necessarily do that here in the United States, perhaps not with our leaders, but we do bow down, don't we? Who or what do you and I bow down to, and why? Apropos questions at the end of our church's liturgical year, when we celebrate the solemnity of our Lord Jesus Christ, the King of the universe. We honor, bow down to, and worship Jesus Christ because Christ is God. And during his time on earth, he showed us how to live and be the embodiment of God's love to each other. This is why he is celebrated as King of the universe. Christ's kingdom is founded on the power of compassion, of reconciliation, of healing, with a vision of humanity as one family under the merciful and loving grace of God, the loving creator of all. Nevertheless, the king we celebrate today bears very little resemblance to our secular expectation of royalty. But Jesus lived up to his title placed over his head by redefining the concept of kingship, revealing what it looks like in the heavenly realm rather than in the world of politics and power. As one commentator pointed out, Christ is the king whose rule is one of humble service. Christ is the king whose crown is compassion, whose royal scepter is humility. Christ is the king whose court belongs to the poor, the forgotten, the lost, the despairing, and the outcast. Christ is the king whose coin of the realm is forgiveness and reconciliation. This is reinforced for us in the last moments of Christ on earth, as Luke shares with us the two criminals who are to die with Jesus. One was still a bully to the end, mocking Jesus, and was focused only on himself without any sense of accountability or any contrition. The other criminal, the one we often refer to as the good thief, as he is about to die, he acknowledges his guilt, and then he humbly recognizes that the man next to him, who was also about to die, Jesus, is innocent and blameless. He recognizes Jesus' goodness and has faith in him. This good thief comprehended the mystery that the King of the universe was powerful enough to willingly die for humanity, trusting only in God. Understanding this, the good thief doesn't ask Jesus to work any more of a miracle than to love him beyond death, asking, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus, the King whose throne was a cross, the rejected Messiah who uses his last earthly breath to assure a dying criminal a place with God. Jesus knew almost no glory in his life, and his kingdom was hard-earned through suffering and death. This is the King you and I can approach with confidence, for he knows our pain as well as our need for forgiveness. This is whom you and I should bow down to. My sisters and brothers, our baptism into the life of Christ was and continues to be our declaration to the world that Jesus Christ is the Lord of our lives, that you and I share his vision of the world, and that you and I seek to fulfill the hope of his kingdom. His kingdom, the power and presence of God's love, freely given to all, but especially to those who are marginated. To claim Christ as our King means to make his vision of compassion and justice the measure of our integrity and the compass of our journey through this life to the life of the world to come in heaven. Next Sunday, we enter into the Advent season, that time of preparation for the inbreaking of Christ into our life in a meaningful way. May you and I always welcome the incarnation of the love of God as the King, the ruler of our lives. And may we bow down to Christ by living and loving like him. May the Lord bless you with peace and all goodness.